Alright, so this video might not be real structured. I might go all over the place. I kind of intend to go over some stuff that was inspired by watching the last Vegan Gains video on the Joe Rogan podcast he did with the paleo diet guy, and some of the things I read in the comments and stuff. So as you may or may not heard, depending on whether you've looked at other videos on my channel, I really didn't like Vegan Gains when he first came out. I was watching the Hodge twins and I saw worst of the fitness industry, the Hodge twins, so I went and saw it. And my first impression was, oh cool, there's some dude that's vegan that lifts weights. At the time I was a vegetarian and I thought he might have a lot of helpful information, but when he began his channel, his MO was to create a whole bunch of drama by just ripping on all the successful fitness YouTubers because they ate meat. That's what he did. He'd basically go, such and such gives bad advice because he eats meat. And he would like show his studies and make fun of them and be a jerk and stir up drama. And he got a whole bunch of subscribers and a whole bunch of views, and his channel's successful now. Now, he's changed his channel for the better over the months. Like, it's a whole lot better now. I don't know how accurately I recall those old videos or not. Back when I used to see it, from my perspective, it seemed as if he just cherry-picked all his stuff and made like a biased case for veganism and didn't fairly represent like any other types of diet. And I still think he definitely stacks it in that favor, but he cares about his cause and stuff. But I think he's improved his approach a whole bunch. I think he's better at just laying out the facts, and he's good at pointing out specific details, because he'll point out what his sources are and who the authorities are and why this source carries some weight and stuff. And I appreciate the way he presents stuff now. I think he does a much better job than he used to. Anyway, I think that the Joe Rogan podcast thing, like, the way it was presented when I saw it, it was like they knew there were a lot of vegans out there and they were trying to say how they felt about the issue. Now, I don't know if that's legit or not, but I know people who think exactly like Joe Rogan and the paleo diet guy do. So whether or not they really believe all the stuff they were saying, that is a discussion that could occur between people that aren't vegan, and it's stuff people believe. And I'm glad they put it out there because it gave people like Happy Healthy Vegan and Vegan Gains a chance to refute some of these commonly held beliefs that were presented in a manner that's more in accordance with a lot of people out there. Because a lot of people aren't just like, vegans are total morons, I hate vegans. A lot of people would hold more of the views as they were presented here, where we understand a lot of people do this for ethical reasons, and at the beginning they feel good because they get lots of fresh fruits and vegetables and less processed foods and stuff. But over time, we see things happening to them, and there are people that believe that. Like, I dealt with that with my own family when I went vegan. They were concerned about my health and well-being, which is funny because I've always been the one who's been the most obsessed with health of everyone in my family. So you would think they would know I wouldn't jeopardize my health, but you know, people believe what they believe so strongly that it biased their assessment of the situation. But I like the way that Vegan Danes refuted everything in the video, and then in the comments you see people going off, and it's just funny. Like, Joe Rogan's whole plant lives matter thing and all that, it's all silliness. Like, we do have science, and science proved that animals have nervous systems and that those nervous systems register pain. It also has shown the evidence that we have that plants do not have nervous systems and plants do not register pain. And this makes evolutionary sense. Animals decided to house their genes in systems that were capable of mobility, whereas plants maintain their DNA in stationary stations, So for the purposes of creatures with mobility, pain served a purpose. It would help them avoid trouble, avoid death, avoid things it would signal that something was wrong and that they should take some sort of action to avoid that. Plants are not capable of moving. They interact with the world through chemical reactions and stuff. So for them to have a nervous system would make no sense. They would be registering pain and there would be nothing they could do to counteract it. There'd be no action they could take to change their circumstances. So it wouldn't serve a purpose. It would make no sense for evolution to prefer that trait for a stationary living thing. So that's one thing that's just silliness. Another thing is they're always going off on plants like, we need oxygen from plants. Yes, we do, very much. But everybody who's studied veganism at all knows that we grow a whole lot more crops and a whole lot more plants to feed the livestock that people eat than we do to feed ourselves. So anything you say about the consumption of plants by humans is amplified if you eat meat, because instead of just getting it directly from the source and it only being this percentage of plants, you get it secondhand. So a whole bunch of plants go into creating this creature that you slaughter and eat. And so it takes many more plants to raise this livestock than if you had just eaten that. So every single thing you say that's legit about us consuming any kind of non-animal or dairy product is amplified when you're talking about eating animal or dairy products. So that's just stuff that I get kind of tired of seeing all the time. I understand part of it's just rhetoric and word games and trolling and stuff, but there's people out there that I think actually fall for this nonsense, so I'm just clarifying why it's nonsense. But at the end of the day, it comes down to you only live once. People grow up on certain things. They enjoy things. Like back before I had switched to veganism, I used to say the cool thing about being an omnivore is I could eat all the good stuff vegans can enjoy, but I'm free to eat all this stuff too. I've always embraced freedom and simplicity, and not being a vegan seemed to give me more freedom. It seemed to make life more simple. So I can see where people are coming from that aren't vegan. And even though if you're like a vegan, you've been thinking about all these things like the environment and the animals and everything, a lot of people aren't aware of that. I know people have been trying their best to spread awareness, but people, they like their meat and they purposely keep their head in the sand. They don't want to know this stuff. They don't want to know it. They don't want to feel guilty about doing something that they enjoy. They just want to live their life, be left alone, spend time with their families, enjoy a good meal. And so it makes it challenging to educate what some of this stuff is. And then there's people that deny things too. There's people that don't believe in climate change and stuff. So that's another issue with the whole thing. And but I don't think, a lot of people, they do like animals, and I don't think they have any idea how cruel the actual process is. Like, they think the animal lives a good life and then it gets slaughtered, and because of the way it was domesticated, it's way more successful than all the wild species, so that's the price it pays. It lives a more easy life where it gets fed, it has territory, it's not hunted as often, and then it just dies. They don't understand that we crowd them in bad conditions, that they get a lot of diseases because they're in bad conditions and they get fed stuff they're not made to eat, and that they get injected with all kinds of stuff, and that they make them grow faster so they can kill them earlier. So instead of waiting 6 years to get the meat, they grow like 6 times as fast and you get the meat after only just 1 year. So there's a lot of stuff people are unaware of. And so you got to remember all that when you're getting impatient with people that eat meat and stuff. I think, I mean, obviously there's a lot of approaches, but I like an approach like Leo Venus, John Venus, Brian Turner, where you just go out and thrive as a human being. You live the life of a champion. You do what you love. You have passion for life. You just do great, and you just, you know, you answer questions honestly, but you're just respectful. It's more your walk and not your talk. And I think that's the best way to go about it, but I could be wrong. There may be many different approaches that are good in different circumstances. That's just the one I lean towards. That's the one I like. And anyway, I've rambled on more than I should have. All this was kind of just provoked by reading the comments to that latest video Vegans and Gains did, and I just thought I'd throw this out there. And if you have any questions or anything you'd like to add or say, feel free to do so in the comments. I would very much enjoy reading that and seeing if it provoked any good discussions. And thank you so much for your time.